Welcome to This Must Be the Place. I'm your host, Alo Galinsky. Each week, I'll uncover what's happening in Sonoma County, diving into the hidden gems and quirky corners. I'll be interviewing some of our local legends, as well as people you didn't know you need to know, all through the eyes of a craft beer enthusiast living in wine country. Join me as we explore one sip, one story, and one adventure at a time, and together we'll find out why this must be the place. For this spooky Halloween episode, we're diving into the spine-chilling work of Devin, Sisk, and Ellen Macfarlane, co-founders of the Napa City Ghost and Legends Walking Tours. Devin has been in the paranormal field for over 11 years, Ellen for over 20 years, and they have together launched Napa Ghost Tours, Sonoma Plaza Ghost Walking Tour, and a haunted Vacaville Ghost Walk. They are here to tell us some real ghost stories, introduce us to some spooky legends, and take us on authentic haunted house tours. Get ready for some goosebumps. Welcome, Devin and Ellen.
Hey, Ella, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
You are well prepared. I can tell already. You got the spooky vibes going over there. For our listeners out there, Devin just dimmed the lights and got spooky mode full force. So we're going to dive right in here with a little background information about you both. You know, I'd love to know how you first got interested in the supernatural, and was there one particularly ghosty experience that was your light bulb moment or your aha moment?
You want to go first?
Sure.
All right.
So I'm actually a working medium. I'm a trance medium, meaning I go into a trance to do my work when I work in the paranormal. And I was born with that ability. So that started about age 5. I started to see dead people around my bed at night. They began to communicate, and of course at that age I was terrified and just hid under the covers. But as I got older, my mom passed away and I wanted to reach out to her. So I taught myself everything that I could learn about the paranormal, from reading Hans Holzer's books to Colin Wilson's books to, trying out the Ouija board, everything. And from there, I was able to learn a whole myriad of things about the paranormal and how to become part of a team and work in the field with others as well with my gifts.
That's really fascinating. Like to have those experiences at such a young age and then be able to bring it to the forefront and have such a connection that you want to pursue it later on in life and throughout your life.
Yes, definitely.
Devin, how about you?
Mine's a little bit different from Miss Ellen's. I was a believer in the paranormal, but I wasn't proactively chasing it down. I had a near-death experience. When I say near death, it was a total death experience.
Okay.
And what ended up happening is I ended up getting really ill. I remember waking up in the ER, or what I consider waking up, and I was standing at the end of the bed, and there was all these people around me, and I'm trying to find out what's going on. Okay. All of a sudden, this little blonde nurse jumps up on the side of the bed, start doing chest compressions on this one guy. Mind you, I can't see anything there because there's all these doctors and nurses. As she is doing chest compressions, I'm like, oh my God, that guy's in trouble. He's screwed, right? And I was saying it as a observer, not as a making a joke or anything. Well, the doctors parted and it was me. I'm laying in the bed.
Packed in ice?
Yeah, packed in ice, an ER stall with tubes in me and everything. And right at that moment, everything started getting smaller. And what I mean by that, it was like an old tube TV set being turned off. And it was literally going like this, the scene. I could still see movement until it was a fine light. And then it blinked out. Next thing I know, I'm sitting on a crushed red velvet couch, not in pain anymore for that moment in my life. That was quite amazing. And I had this overwhelming feeling of coming home. And I have this real intense feeling of love that I've never, ever felt in my life. As I'm doing the vibe check, if you will, on the other side, I'm sitting there on the couch and 3 people came up behind the couch, started communicating with me. And they were saying things like, we were with you when this happened. And one of the stories I always relate was at one point in my life, I was working 3 jobs and I fell asleep behind the wheel of a car and I wrapped my Honda around a telephone pole. I woke up with the motor right here. The only thing I had happen to me at that moment was a bruise across my chest from the seatbelt. I literally took the seatbelt off and got out of the car.
Wow.
Just like totally amazing, right?
Yeah.
So after that, I was like, okay, I get it. You guys are my spirit guides, guardian angels. So we talk for a little bit, and that part's mine. I don't share that with anybody. But at the end of it, they go, "You've been given a great gift." And I was like, wow, cool. Tell me what I won. I was hoping for a 67 GTO, but that still hasn't showed up. Maybe soon. I don't know. But as they said that, they go, well, you can continue on with the work or you can continue on with the journey. And my first and only thought was my kid. My son, who was about 2.5 at the time, we were just figuring out that he had cerebral palsy. And I was like, well, I can't bail on my kid. He's going to need his dad. I have to be here for him. So as that happened, as that thought happened, that was literally my answer. And I was sent back and I was literally slammed back into my body. And I was in the hospital for 17 days after that. So, but I was dead for 17 minutes. Mind you, they had taken my body from the ER stall into the goodbye room.
Wow.
So it was pre-morgue. After that, I went on this journey because I wanted to figure out what had happened. You know, I was walking around the ER room as a ghost and I couldn't communicate with anybody. Nobody could see me, hear me, or feel me. And I wanted to figure out a way of helping those that are, earthbound spirits.
So is that kind of what got you interested in leading supernatural tours down the road after all this?
Oh, absolutely.
Or were there other leading factors into that? I mean, I can imagine you're faced with some skeptics on a daily basis, but also maybe not. Maybe people really do want to hear these stories and have something to cling on to or relate to.
Well, we always run into the skeptics and we always tell them,
it's a good thing to be a skeptic.
Yeah, I mean, we're even skeptical. We're skeptical believers. So, we're not jumping on the first thing that says it's a ghost. Okay. For instance, If you open the front door and the back door bumps a little bit, that's not a ghost. That's a vacuum. Okay.
There's a big difference between being skeptical and being cynical.
Exactly.
So skeptical, we love. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out, and let your mind expand. And that's always a good thing. But cynical, a little harder.
Yeah, we always encourage our teammates and other investigators to think outside the box, to try and, think of new things to do or think of what could be possibly going on.
Sure.
How did this lead into the tours? Well, to be honest, it led into the tours because we wanted it to help our research. So we could increase, going to new locations, buying new equipment and things like that.
Yes, definitely. And also educating the public.
100%.
That makes a lot of sense. And with such a unique perspective and background in this, I'm sure you're, being a tour guide, as I can relate to, you got to be a master, on the subject, and people, you're selling yourself as well as the product. Absolutely. And so to have this authenticity behind it is really important. So why don't you tell our listeners about your walking tours? Maybe they've heard of them before, never gotten a chance to come along. Maybe this is their first time hearing about them.
Well, our walking tours have been going on for about 11 years. And since I wear many hats, including the marketing hat, not a lot of people know about us.
Well, here's your chance to tell the good people of Sonoma County who might be tuning in.
Right. So, I do ads and things like that, but it's in wine country, you're buried under wine. So, it's just the way it is.
Well, I've heard ghost wine a lot too, right?
Yes, definitely. There's ghost wineries, which we've worked in ghost wineries, which are really fascinating as well. Wineries that didn't make it through Prohibition. So those are really good ones.
Yeah, very interesting. The history, what backs up our tours, because even when we create a tour, okay, we have to do a lot of physical research. We
Right.
have to go in and figure out the history. What are the facts and what is the, folklore. And sometimes it's amazing to find out, there's different stories about the same subject, but nobody
can pinpoint anything. So research
right.
is key, and making sure that the research is definitely, you want to be as credible as possible. With that, of course, when you're storytelling, you have to have a little bit of a flair. But for the most part, we're 100% credible. Everything that we do is
Right.
based in history. And starting the ghost walk was actually my idea. Devin had done ghost walks in Benicia before and Sassoon before, but I am the mother of twins and also a singleton. And I needed a night job, and I knew nobody would hire me. And so I thought, well, what can I do? And I loved history. So I wrote the tour, and I found Devin on a line, and I said, let's meet up. And we met up, and we started the tours then, and we've been going since, and we've traveled all over the world together.
That's so cool. That's such a fun, like, natural partnership. And as you were saying, all of these tours are rooted in facts and history, but the embellishment part is a big part of it. I always said when I gave my tours that it was the best way to combine my passions for beer, theater, and hospitality, because
Yeah,
you really are on stage.
Yeah.
And I come from doing theater my entire life, and so when you're up there, you're wanting to get the facts across, but you also have to entertain. You can't be dry, but you don't want to make it to seem like you're also not giving the fact. There's a fine balance to strike, I think.
Yeah, you have to find the middle ground of adding flair
Yes.
and getting the facts out. It's like we try to, on top of what we do on our tours, we hit them with the history and we hit them with flair, but we also have people step out of their everyday lives and be paranormal investigators with us.
Sure.
So you get to use our tools and you get to use our methodology to try to communicate with the spirits that we're talking about. So, for instance, if we're talking about Swift Arrow in Sonoma, Swift Arrow loves to communicate, especially with the ladies.
Yes.
And, people use the dowsing rods, they'll use the K2 meter. And then in other parts of that tour, we use a spirit box and a few other tools.
Yeah, definitely.
So why don't you give us a little, I don't want you to give anything away because I want people to come experience the product, but why don't you give us the speed walking tour? If somebody was to come and meet you for one of your tours, what are they going to experience? What's a typical, not that you can have a typical ghost tour out there, but, give us a little bit of an overview of what a night with Devin and Ellen would entail.
Devin and I always like to start out with a good hot coffee. That's for sure. And that's usually in Napa. And we kind of warm everybody up and ask them their experiences. And a lot of people have watched the shows on TV. And Devin and I kind of go through our credentials. And we've done a lot of TV work as well. We've been on Ghost Adventures, and we've been on Monsters and Mysteries in America, and done Haunted Wine Country, as you know, Tom Wersch.
Yeah.
We kind of go from there, and then Devin introduces the tools and tells them how to use the tools. And we start off with history, basically, when you say.
Yeah, in Napa especially, we start off with history. We also bring an iPad so we can show them pictures of things of the past. Our Napa tour used to be called the Red Light Tour, and there's a deep reason for that. We go through a lot of different brothels and a lot of different areas on Clinton Street that had a seedier past.
Yes, it had a very seedy but very entertaining past. An entertaining past, very much.
So we go through that. We go through the spirit, or we go through the history, but then we have our guests use the tools and communicate.
They can ask yes or no answer questions. Sorry. and get answers. And if the spirit box is being used, the spirit box is like talking to a ghost in real time. So it will talk with you as you're working with the other tools.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do on the tour is this in Sonoma and Napa both is there's certain areas where we will have the spirit and then we'll grab 3 guests. Because to be very honest, if we went on a tour and we had one person doing the dowsing rods for everybody, one of the tour guides, I would have to call BS on it.
Yeah,
It was like, how come it's only working for you and not everybody else?
Everybody needs to do it.
So we want to make sure that people realize that they can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, we have 3 individuals come up. We put one person in the middle and we use a dowsing rod, and we'll get the people's name on the side of them, and they will ask the spirit to point at a person by name. Okay, so basically what we're doing is Ellen and I aren't involved in the scenario at all. We've just told them how to do it, what to do, and so on. Okay, so all of a sudden, it's a very big Scooby-Doo moment for people. Very big Scooby-Doo moment, because all of a sudden they're standing on either side and there's one person in the middle and they're like, please point at Jim. And all of a sudden the dowsing rod creeps over to Jim. And then all of a sudden you see this person's face go,
Right.
It's what we call the Scooby-Doo moment.
Right.
So it sounds like they have a really interactive experience with you as well. They're not
Very
just
much so.
plodding along and listening to you talk. They're being able to immerse themselves in it. And that sounds like a really great, fun, spooky time.
Absolutely.
What can I find out about the initial, like what sparked your first interest in the paranormal history of Sonoma and Napa counties? Was there one story? Was there one moment that really made you want to dive in?
No, I can say for Napa. The last public execution in California was in Napa.
Really?
And it was a serial killer named Billy Rowe. Yes, in 1897. We still have the portable gallows in our sheriff's office down on Highway 29.
Wow.
You can go in and get the key and go in and see pictures of the actual execution. So we've used those quite often on our tour. We have the pictures of that as well. That fascinates me. Before that, I write a bit. So I was writing about the resorts of Napa, of which there were over 500 resorts back in the day where people would come up and take the waters, come for the summer, and just kind of relax. And there are a lot of great stories about that as well. So just digging into the Napa families, we learned a lot. We learned a lot about the Coombs family. We learned a lot about Judge that was here in town, that was Judge Gildersleeve, that was very I don't know, he was kind of a mercurial type of ghost. I think he was just he was very good. That was it for me. What about for you?
I think Sonoma, the mission, as you and us when we were growing up here in California, it was somebody always did a mission project.
Right.
Yeah, it was 4th grade.
Yeah, 4th grade. Build a mission, right? They made it sound like it was a really good thing.
They're actually not doing it anymore.
Yeah, because once you start peeling back the history,
how slavery and everything else with the missions,
it was really dark. So I think when Ellen pitched that to me about, hey, let's do a tour in Sonoma, this is what we're looking at, I was totally enthralled by it, and I wanted to find out the little locations. And for me and for Ellen both, actually, it's not about the big picture of history. It's about those little nuggets of history that escapes a lot of people.
I think little snapshots of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I'm really curious about, is there one Sonoma County or Napa County ghost story that's the most compelling for both of you, and what makes it stand out from the rest?
Well, Billy Rowe's story, definitely, because, I could go into it and tell the whole story, but we'd be here for a while. But he was a serial killer, so I'm really into true crime. and just to get his backstory and the fact that he was very egotistical and very narcissistic, and he took time to write out a 5-page account of his life, which is like pure gold. You can sink your teeth into that and really read into it. We actually had an FBI agent come out. She was retired.
Yeah,
she came on the
profiler.
tour. She was a profiler, and she came back after, and she said, "Let's go profile this guy." And so,
Okay, wait a minute. You're kind of downplaying it. So we just finished the tour, right? We
Right.
just finished the tour, and we know her from the tour. We don't know that she's a profiler yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And we finish up the tour, and everybody's kind of leaving. And Ellen and I always offer, hey, we're going to be here for, a few minutes. If anybody has any questions on the paranormal or so on and so forth, please feel free. And everybody kind of leaves. And then she kind of walks over to us and she's like, hey, I'm an FBI profiler. And we're both like, what? And she goes, do you guys want to profile Billy Rowe? And we're both like, yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't pass that up.
Definitely.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, of course not.
Really, and that was exciting. And we learned, he hated his mother. His stepmother tried to poison him when she married his dad 3 days after the wedding. His brother tried to kill him with an axe when he was asleep. And, he's had several mishaps through his life where he just seems to fly by the seat of his pants. He's not good at planning at all. And he kind of murders at random, just at convenience. So, learning about him was just really fascinating. And he tends to only haunt the courthouse.
Okay.
He haunts the courthouse, but they have had activity at Cole's Chop House, which was actually the largest mortuary in town, was Cole's Chop House, was D.S. Kaiser's mortuary and undertaking rooms, where they actually dried Billy's bones out on the roof of that building and hung a skeleton up at Napa High to teach children anatomy until 1965.
Really?
When he got stolen. So he's stolen now. He's no longer with us. But nobody knows where his bones went.
Well, somebody knows.
Somebody does.
Somebody knows.
And Devin, I don't know. Sonoma was Charlie's story, wasn't it?
Yeah, Charlie was the one that really intrigued me. There was a young boy. He was anywhere between 6 and 9 years old, and he came riding in on the railroad. He was an orphan kid, and a lot of people don't realize that the orphanages in the United States, a lot of orphanages in the United States, were run like SPCAs are run today. Kids had a certain shelf life. If they were not adopted into a work program or into a home, they were put down. They were euthanized.
Wow.
Okay. And this was up from the Civil War all the way through until about 1940 to 1950. That's when it stopped. But there's an incredible documentary called Children of the Grave that goes into great detail about this. And then there was also the idea of the orphan train, which was even worse, because you're just basically selling orphans into either slavery or
a predatorial
situation, and then, a couple of years later, the train would come back through and the people would be like, hey, whatever happened to those two that we sold you last time? Oh, they ran away. There was no follow through on it. So Charlie rode in and he stayed at the train depot in Sonoma. And what I mean by that is he stayed in the tunnels under the train depot in Sonoma. Because under the depot,
under all of Sonoma, actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it has to be with that being that big. There's 17 miles of tunnels. The tunnels were put there because of the Chinese immigrants who were putting in the railroads, digging out the sloughs, putting up the rock walls. They had to have a place to go at night to handle everyday business. So there was, saloons, brothels, dentistry, casino, whatever you could think. What was above was also down below. So, and then later on in life, they were used for nefarious reasons. So Charlie probably followed like the hobo line and came in to Sonoma, and he would live underground in those tunnels. He would hang out at what is now City Hall, but it was also a fire department for a long period of time. And I'm talking horse and engine, not
Right.
fire engine. Okay. One day he was hanging out, and whether he was hearing impaired or whether he was just not paying attention because he's a kid, he ran out in front of the horse and engine and got trampled to death. And he was there for the longest time, huh?
He was there, we think, at least from the 1920s. At least from the 1920s.
Okay.
And we would communicate with him on the constant.
We think he's crossed over now.
Yeah.
Which is another part of our work that we do. We do crossing spirits, and that's helping spirits get to the other side.
Right.
He would do some pretty amazing stuff, though. We used to play a game of hide and go seek.
Really?
Yeah, I know it sounds crazy. Hey, he's playing hide and go seek with a ghost. How's he doing that? What we do is we would have a toy fire truck, and we would have Charlie pick somebody out of the crowd, and that person would run off with Ellen. Okay, they'd go off to the side where they couldn't hear us, and then we would hide the toy fire truck on one of our guests. Okay, then the guest would come back, we'd give them a dowsing rod, and she would ask Charlie, can you show me where the fire truck is? Using the dowsing rods, she would go find the fire truck. And he was about 85%.
85% accurate.
Yeah. Now I have to ask you both. You're both very well traveled. You've seen and been to and experienced so many different haunted buildings, haunted places. In your view, what is the most haunted building in Sonoma County or Napa County, and why?
Buena Vista Winery.
Yeah, that was
in
big time.
Sonoma.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
Yeah, and in Napa, it's kind of hard to tell. The courthouse, I would say, would be the most haunted building in that, or the mill.
So what makes Buena Vista Winery so haunted?
First of all, it has a really strong Native American past to it. The other thing is that it has a deep history. Obviously, it was a ghost winery that was still working, and it's California's oldest working winery. It still continues to make wine. And the way they were able to do that was they were selling medical wine. So
during Prohibition.
So
okay.
if you received a doctor's note, a prescription,
you were good to go
for your, I don't know, glaucoma.
They probably were allowed to export some of it too.
Yeah. So it's amazing how things come back around, Back then it was the red, now it's the green. So, we all know how it ends up.
Yeah. The owner of Buena Vista Winery was in Nicaragua. He absconded there after a crime and was eaten by a crocodile. So they have allegedly. Yeah. They have a crocodile mounted up on the ceiling in Buena Vista. That's pretty cool.
But the way he got his money to open that winery is absolutely brilliant, because he worked in the San Francisco Mint during the gold rush days. Okay.
And he's a Hungarian count as well.
So he decides every couple of days he would go up to the roof of the San Francisco Mints and clean up and sweep up all the gold dust up there. So, and that's how he ended up making so much money.
Yes, and that's what they came after him about.
Gotta love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and,
yeah, absolutely.
His house, Bartholomew Park, is also haunted. So there's the two properties that were very haunted.
Mm-hmm. And the owner, Jean Charles
Boise.
Yeah, Jean Charles Boise is very open to the paranormal. He he actually has done some really surprisingly amazing stuff. Like when they opened, they did a full cleansing and
It buried crystals.
yeah, planted crystals all around the property and, to promote good energy and things like that. But you can feel things in there still.
Yeah, we've done a few events for them over the years, and it's always a pleasure to do that. It really is, because it's just, the vibe is amazing. And
Sure, you can feed off all the energy there.
yeah.
Oh,
So, are there any lesser known haunted spots in Sonoma County that are worth visiting for those who might be out there in the next couple of weeks looking for a scare this Halloween? Maybe some places that aren't as well known. Now that we've covered some of the more well known spooky places.
Well, if you're walking and it's not dark, you could go to Sonoma Developmental Center,
mm,
which is like an abandoned mental hospital.
Those are usually the spookiest. I see them on TV a lot. It's always the spooky abandoned hospital wards or mental hospitals.
yeah,
Yes,
this one you can really feel it though.
and it's
Yeah.
a great campus for walking though, and it's really beautiful to walk
Okay.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
used to have a carousel out there.
Really?
for the
Yeah,
patients.
for the
Yeah.
patients. And we went out there one night and we were doing work around the carousel and we were picking up different entities coming through. And the amazing thing was is at one point we were standing there and all of a sudden I heard somebody run up on us.
Yeah, that was scary.
Okay, like hard footsteps
Breathing. Yeah.
and breathing. And I turn around, there's nobody there.
You're giving me the chills a little bit. Just
Yeah,
I can sense it. I can sense the calliope music somewhere lingering in the
and I'm
background.
like, what the hell?
Clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Clowns are scary enough when they're not paranormal. But you put paranormal and clowns together, and I think you might make some people not able to sleep.
Definitely.
That's always a good location.
Yeah, Napa State Hospital is also extremely haunted. I don't know if, I think you can walk on the grounds. You could definitely walk up to Lake Maria, where there's remnants of cabins and things where they let the patients live freely. And all of that is haunted, as well as the old graveyard that's on the property.
Well, you've given us some really great spots. And to our listeners out there, if you are able to get out for a spooky stroll in the next couple of weeks, get out there and just feel the environment around you and report back to us. We have a comment section. We have an email list. I'm sure Devin and Ellen would love to hear your experiences going out to some of these spots that they mentioned.
Love to.
Go to these spots and then book a tour with them and, let them know what you felt when you're out there. For both of you, a couple of questions, your more personal questions. I'd love to know, is there a most memorable story or legend you might have heard from a local, like not an official historical account, but like a personal or anecdotal ghost story that you want to share with us?
I think one of my favorites was Ellen was on Monstrous Mysteries and Legends.
Mhm.
And that's a little bit different from
Ghosts.
Okay? It's more paranormal encrypted, okay? And she was on it to be the historian for the Rebob. Now, the Rebob is a flying monkey.
Bioengineered.
Well, some people say bioengineered. Now, the thing is we were doing a special tour and we were covering the story of the Rebob. And there's a couple different stories. One story is that there was a traveling circus that came into town. The train car broke. The monkeys all ran free. And they fell in love with the candy maker downtown.
This is a bar story too, by the way.
Yeah, this is a total. They would, every day they would go and raid the candy. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And again, I don't know where the wings came in, but they would ride in, obviously they're monkeys, so they're going to be up in the trees. Okay.
Right.
Now, the other one, because we were telling that story, okay, the one that we'd learned about the train coming in and whose candy shop it was and everything like that. And we were kind of finishing up with the group, and everybody was over here just kind of having wine and talking about it. And I went up to get another glass of wine, and Ellen stands next to me, and there's a guy at the bar And he goes, so you think you know about rebobs? And I'm like, yeah. I said, you were sitting here, you heard us. He goes, that's not what they are. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be good, whatever it is. I can't wait to hear this, right? So he ends up telling us this whole story about some bioengineered from the US Army, and that they came out of Lawrence Livermore Lab, and REBOB is actually a acronym for them, like reconnaissance, environmental, whatever. Okay. And I'm just like, damn, that's a cool story. Now, the funny thing is that there's an old cemetery at the top of Partridge Road, which incidentally is where
the
Rebobs live. Okay. This old cemetery is on private property, and it's all fenced in. You have to make an appointment to go see it. The person who lives there works at Lawrence Livermore Lab. And you ready for his name?
Igor.
His name is Igor.
I don't think it could be anything else. That is fantastic.
It's like sometimes the history writes itself,
And that's where some of these best stories come from.
Yeah, and then we constantly run into other people that were like, oh, we were making out up there when, in the 50s, and, they'd see red lights, and it was
red eyes.
The red eyes of the Rebob, and, so.
Sounds like a sci-fi movie, The Red Eyes of the Rebob, something that should be put out there in film.
Ellen was in a movie.
Yeah, I was in a movie called Partridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just came out. It's not streaming yet, but we had our premiere.
Very cool.
All about the Rebobs. They actually made a movie about it, and it's filmed in the Blair Witch style, as if they found evidence and the people went missing. And it's very good. It's actually very good. I played the historian in it. My part's not so great, but the movie itself, the premise and everything was great.
Well, you'll have to let me know when it comes out, and I'll definitely do my part to watch it.
Right.
I have one more spooky question for you both as we wrap up here. Sure. Now, if you could spend one night in any haunted location in Sonoma County on Halloween, painting the picture for you, Halloween Eve, Sonoma County, if you could spend one night in any location, where would it be and why?
I would definitely say the developmental center.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 100%. If I wanted to do it for comfort and awesomeness, I would say at the Swiss Hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the developmental center would definitely be a bucket list.
Wait,
got it.
Comfort and awesomeness?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, if we could get into the developmental center,
that'd be the spot.
Oh, yeah. 100% down with that. I mean,
right on.
We've done creepier investigations in more dilapidated buildings than one could shake a stick at.
Yeah, falling down buildings and Bodie and, things like that. Different luck.
Right. So we've got to.
Well, maybe someday, some way, you'll find your way in there. You're well connected. I'll just say that much. And as we sign off here, why don't you give our listeners a way to? I'm sure you still have spots on your tours left coming up. Give our listeners a way to find you and to book a tour if they're interested.
Well, we have many spots available. We're actually working Halloween night and the night before, Devil's Night. So we will be doing both of those. We have a special event Wednesday night called the Paranormal Sip and Paint at the Vintners Collective.
Cool.
We bring pieces of our haunted museum out. You paint the haunted items and sip some wine. We tell ghost stories and we do a seance. So that's a special event that we do. The tours, you can always just go to napaghosts.com, and our calendar is at the bottom of the page. You can pick it out, and we're year round.
Very cool. Well, I just want to say thanks to you both so much for appearing on This Must Be the Place. I'm excited to have your stories shared with our listeners and hope to get on a ghost tour around Sonoma or Napa myself before too long.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Happy haunting, you two.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
The interviews are done, which means I think it's time to crack one open. Interviews make me thirsty, and I want you thirsting for knowledge about some great beer, both local and not so local. Each week, I'll introduce you to a beer I find discussion-worthy and explain the nuances of what makes it fantastic in my eyes and why you should give it a try. And just to keep it on point, I'll even try to make sure the beer reflects the vibe or theme of the episode. After quite a spooky episode as we just featured, the mood was right to crack into an equally spooky brew fit for the season in many ways. While a beer outside of Sonoma County, I couldn't pass up the chance to grab some cans of Alvarado Street Brewery's Nightmare on Alvarado Street. Alvarado Street out of Monterey, with a couple other outposts to enjoy their beer in Carmel and Salinas, has been a big player in the Northern California beer scene, known for their flavorful IPAs and a wide variety of styles and fun labels. This beer is a fantastic seasonal approach to a beer style that is often divisive, the pumpkin ale. Showing up on shelves usually far too early for some people's likings, as soon as late July, pumpkin beers are known to mimic the spices found in your pumpkin pie. It's a real treat when you find beers brewed with actual pumpkin, or one taking a classic beer style and infusing it with the essence of pumpkin. The latter is the case here, as I pour this mysterious dark beer into my glass, and the aromas of nutmeg and clove hit my nose, supported by the roasty notes of a porter, as touched upon in last week's segment. This beer sports a tan head and definitely has some coffee-like taste to it, but really is just a warming, spiced porter that is brewed without any actual pumpkin. The label is haunting and fun, and plays into our pending spooky season, and sometimes you just want to pick up a beer for the cool label. We've all been there. I highly recommend going out and finding this beer as I did at Oliver's or probably Willoughby's, and if not for the name, I think I'd most certainly call this a delight on Alvarado Street. A huge thanks to Ellen and Devin of Napa Ghosts for appearing on this week's podcast. Cheers from your ghostly host, and have a fun and safe Halloween. This Must Be the Place is produced by our friends at Pod Locally, an audio platform helping local voices connect to their communities. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment on all your favorite podcast apps, and visit the show notes for more information, links, and resources. Look out for our next drop on Sunday. Until then, I'm your host, Alo Galinsky, saying have a great one.